So greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Healing Me First podcast, stories of breakthroughs, transformation, and healing. I am your host, Chef Bee, and I am super excited to have our lovely guest, Vanya Francis of Cherished Life Wellness. Welcome, Vanya.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Oh my goodness.
Y'all, I love this lady, okay? She is one of my little Spelman sisters.
Yes,
You
indeed.
know, she was my prenatal yoga instructor when I was having my second child. She's become this lovely friend of mine. Y'all see how I'm talking about her? Everyone talks about Vanya like this, just
Oh my
like
goodness.
like a little what is it? Like their little angel, you know? Their little
Oh,
angel. Or just special people that we have in our circles, and you're definitely one of those people, you know?
well, you know the feeling is absolutely mutual. So I'll be gushing all over you too. So you already know.
Well, girl, let's get into it. I really just, let me tell you this, like this podcast is all about just sharing with people, like all of these beautiful practitioners and entrepreneurs that we know, they are coming to their work because they're actively working on themselves and doing all the things to really try to be better.
Hmm.
And, I really want people to hear those stories because I think they're very powerful, they're transformational, and really it also humanizes folks and lets you know that you're not by yourself. There are people who are dealing with things similar to you,
Hmm.
know, and give you some tools maybe, or just some perspectives on how to deal with whatever it is you're dealing with. So I just loved having my folks come on here and just share a little bit about themselves and the work that they're doing because it's just, I know good people, I know fly people.
Yes, you do. Yes. So I think that's exciting. I love that. I love being able to have really just genuine, authentic, organic conversations. That's how we have gotten to know each other and become such good friends.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah.
So tell the listeners, the viewers, a little bit about yourself, like in your background. So who is Vanya Francis?
My goodness. Ooh, we could be here all day with that question. No, but who is Vanya Francis? Recently I've been called to really just acknowledge, obviously my ancestry and where I come from. So I am the daughter first of Belinda McCoy Francis and Ira Francis. Um, and I am also the mother of Avo Samuel and Taraja Samuel. And I think starting there is really important because motherhood is such a central part of my identity, mothering. And my mother was, my first example of that and has to this date probably been one of the best examples of that. But yeah, my journey as a mother has informed, my life's work and everything that I'm doing right now. But what most people don't know about me is that I have a corporate background. I worked in marketing and business development for an entertainment entity more than 10 years ago at this point. But I also feel like a lot of that work kind of helped prepare me for being a business owner and entrepreneur with Cherished Life. So I'm also the founder of Cherished Life. And the primary offerings that I have within Cherished Life are holistic birth doula support. I'm a childbirth educator. As you mentioned, I'm also a prenatal yoga instructor and trainer and a holistic health coach. So I make a wellness tea to support womb wellness. Um, and that has been an evolution in and of itself. I've had several iterations of my business that have kind of led me to birth work, which is really where my passion lies and where my focus is, with Cherish Life today. So, I mean, we could talk about any and all of those things, but yeah, I guess that gives a little bit about, who I am and what I do.
So what's interesting? I remember when I was a kid, my mother had a book. It was like a black and white book of this woman. She wore a black leotard,
Mhm.
did yoga poses. I don't know. I think everybody had this book. It looked like a novel size book.
Uh-huh.
But when you go in the book, there's probably like 100 poses. So she was doing, you know, like the bend, she was doing chaturanga, she was doing down
Mm-hmm.
dog, she was doing all kind of inversions that were like, ooh, what's this? And so that was, I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just, I wasn't around people who were doing yoga. I'm from Guyana, Brooklyn. No one was doing yoga like that. And
Right.
then I remember going to Spelman. It was my sophomore year, and there was a young lady who had that book. And she
Wow.
was
Really?
she was from the Caribbean. She's deceased now, but she was like just this younger woman who was really just into wellness at
Yeah.
such a young age. She was 18, and she was doing all these amazing things with her wellness. And she talked to me about yoga, and I just started kind of learning more and then started getting resources to like try to do it on my own. So I wanted to know, like, when were you first introduced to yoga and like what was that journey for you, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a great question. And you just actually jogged my memory a little bit because I forgot that my mother actually, now she didn't have a large book, but it was this little pocket size, tattered looking book, right? You could hold it in your hand. It wasn't very big, but I remember seeing yoga for the first time because I found that book in my home. And that was when I was in high school. And then, I mean, I didn't really connect to it at that time. I can remember kind of flipping through it and then just kind of putting it down. I didn't, yeah, I didn't know. And my mother definitely wasn't practicing yoga at the time, and she had never really talked to me about it. And then, a very, personal situation happened at my freshman year at Spelman. I came to Spelman with like a real awareness around eating well and, working out, taking care of myself. I had gone through like a personal transformation in high school. Many of my friends were like a year older than me, so that they had already graduated, and a lot of them were in the AUC. And but I had a lot of time on my hands my senior year in high school, and I had actually applied early acceptance to Spelman. I got in a few days before the Christmas Kwanzaa holiday, and I was coasting, spring semester. So at that time, I decided like I really wanted to feel better in my body, and just really, had time to take care of myself and really focus on that. And so I talked to my mom about it, who told me, the things to do, which we all pretty much know to do, and yet we don't really do it. But she was like, Vanya, just reduce the amount of refined foods you're eating, try to cut back on your sugar, drink plenty of water, and establish a regular workout routine, right? So, I mean, when you a teenager, those small changes go a long way.
Yeah.
Now, at almost 45, I'm like, none of that it feels like it's working right now.
Of course not.
Right. But I did it. And I did. I lost probably about 20 pounds my senior year in high school. And so the habits that I developed then, I brought with me to Spelman as a freshman. And so I kept up with my workouts. I was eating really well. I actually stopped eating chicken at Spelman because I didn't really like what they were serving in the cafeteria. And so I became mostly plant-based. Was still eating seafood. And but I got about halfway through my freshman year and started suffering from tension headaches. And I woke up one morning, I was dizzy, I couldn't stand up. It was almost like I was having a vertigo episode, and I had to lay back down. I told my roommate, she told my RA. They were like, "Do you want us to call an ambulance?" And I was like, "Yes, I think so." Because I had no idea what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And an ambulance pulled up to my dorm. Abby, sci-fi for those Spelmanites.
I
Where'd
mean,
you say?
Howard Harold, but we're not gonna hold it against
Whatever.
her for being an Abbey. Howard Harold was
Whatever.
where all the parties was happening. We digress.
Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, pulled up to Abby and took me away to Grady actually, and they ran several tests, and what they came back with was nothing. So I had CAT scans, the whole 9 yard. And the nurse very nicely told me, baby, we think you're stressed out and you probably just need to have a seat. And
Mm.
I was like, what? I was like, no, these people are crazy. Called my parents. I ended up flying home and being home for about a week, saw doctors there. They told me the same thing, but it was so debilitating. Like I literally could not hold my head up without having like my head in my hand. And I was experiencing muscular contractions in my head. So it was super scary. And it took me a while to sort of move past that, just with like some herbal medicine that I ended up taking and a lot of rest. And that was sort of the catalyst for my wellness journey. And so that was my awakening when I realized, like, even though I had been tending to like my physical well being through diet and exercise, I had neglected my mental and emotional well being. And coming to understand that that can have an effect on your physical body. And nobody had ever talked to me about that. I'd never known anybody who had experienced that. And so it took me, until senior year, but that's when I found yoga. And I was going to a studio off campus at the time called Atlanta Yoga. It was one of few studios, I think, in existence in Atlanta at the time. So we're talking like 2000, 2000.
That
Yeah,
was a while ago. And you
yeah,
know what's interesting? Like I just think about because I've been a career academic for many years,
yeah.
graduate school, all the things. And I'm just thinking about just all the amounts of stress that we put ourselves under.
Hmm.
Late nights, trying to get papers done, studying for exams, just having to read a whole book in like a week and it's
Yes,
this thick. And gosh, I just wish I knew about yoga too during that time because it would have just helped so much. No one
yes.
was really talking about self-care at that time. No one was talking about, just really managing yourself and taking breaks and not being overwhelmed by all the work. And I definitely know that yoga gives you that as a gift, like just to decompress.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was to that point, I was burning the candle at both ends. I was going to bed around midnight because I was never somebody who could stay up all night and pull all-nighters. I've always, like my friends always joke about how early I go to bed. Still to this date, about 9 o'clock is my bedtime. But I would, push it to midnight and then I would have to lay down, but then I would get up at 4 and keep studying. And I was working two jobs. I was serving off campus and then I had like a work study job on campus. And freshman year, I was pre-med. I was psychology pre-med.
Oh,
So
really? I didn't know that.
yeah, but I let that go. After freshman year, I kept the psychology, but yeah, I was pre-med. And so yeah, I had to really like reevaluate my whole life, which is, when I had the opportunity many years later, almost, 20 years later or so, to teach yoga and meditation at Spelman. It was a full circle moment for me, and
Mm.
the story I just shared with you is the same one that I shared with them. And I wish that I'd had yoga when I was at Spelman. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting chills just thinking about. I love these full circle moments because, like,
Yeah.
I taught at Spelman too as a math professor,
Yes.
running the lab that I was trained out of, and so I just I know exactly what you're saying, and they were gifted you, so
Yes.
which was awesome that they had you to guide them into this practice and to think now about how they can really handle their well-being as
Mhm.
they leave Spelman and do their thing.
Yeah. And actually, my emphatic yes was me thinking about how much they gifted me during my time there. Like, I just, learned so much. I was going through a lot of personal changes, and it was a healing journey for me to be able to share the practice with them and to be able to offer them like really raw, um, authentic wisdom, just kind of based on my own experiences. And in many ways, I would close the door and just tell them, like, we're rejecting a lot of this grind culture that I know permeates, even Spelman's culture.
Mhm.
And so in that way, I felt like I got to be a disruptor, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just giving them like this, you don't have to be completely exhausted and burnt out and depleted in order to do well. What if you could approach this and embrace this with ease and grace and, and gratitude? Like, so, those were some of the things that we got to talk about in addition to, practicing the physical poses.
I love that. You
Yeah.
know, I came to you, I met you, gosh, how did I meet you? I don't even remember. I think maybe at a dance class, a African
Yeah,
dance
I
class.
think that was probably,
Or
I
no,
think it
no, no. Actually, that's not it, y'all. I met Vanya. Our children we were looking at the same African-centered schools.
yes.
That's how we initially met.
Yes, you're right.
Then we bumped into each other at that
Dance.
dance class.
And that's when we
Back in the
really
day when we used to do that, right?
right. Most people probably don't even know that about me. They know
Like,
I was a dancer first. I grew up dancing.
right? Oh my God. Y'all look, if people look at my stories on Instagram, they know I love dancing. Like I can't move the way I want to move, but I just appreciate dance and movement and all of it. Like I just love what people do with their bodies, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I find myself pregnant and I'm looking online for prenatal yoga, prenatal yoga. And y'all look, she's the only one that comes up. Okay. Prenatal yoga in Atlanta, Vanya is the only person that comes up. And so we start taking classes together. Well, I started taking classes under your direction. So I want you to tell people, how did you decide to move into the work that you're doing now with, it's partly prenatal yoga and doula work? We could start with prenatal first.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, because prenatal was definitely my entry into birth work. And it started with my personal journey, my pregnancy with my first child, my daughter, Taraja. And who's 16 now. I can't believe it, and will be a senior next year. But having already had a yoga practice, it was, when I got pregnant, I was like, oh gosh, of course, prenatal yoga. Like, that was what made the most sense and started practicing that. And I mean, those classes were so special to me and really helped me just connect with like my divine feminine essence, which is really what I try to impart, in my teaching now. And it's funny because in hindsight, I used to talk about my pregnancy as one of the most blissful times in my life, and Taraja, and it still was one of the most blissful times in my life. But I used to say that like as a blanket statement to pregnant women. And then when I got pregnant with Tunde, my son, many years ago, sorry, he's 7 now, so 7 years ago, um, I was like, this is not blissful at all. Like, I know these women were like, this woman is crazy.
What she talking about?
Yeah. Excuse me. So I don't know if y'all can hear these notifications coming through, but so anyway, that experience absolutely informed my desire and passion for like sharing the practice with other women. So yeah, I went through my yoga teacher training when my daughter was about 18 months old. And then when I came out of that training, I marched over to the prenatal yoga instructors at the studio. Kashi, Atlanta is where I trained. I'm still to this day consider that my home. And I told them, I was like, I think I want to teach prenatal yoga. And they were like, okay. And at the time, she was like, well, most of us are self-taught. She was like, so you can
Mm.
come observe, in the back of the classroom and just, take notes and just observe how we do it. And then within 6 months of doing that, the teacher at the time was wanting to transition. And she's like, would you like to take over this class? And so
Wow.
that's this kind of history. But for me, being like a student of life and a lifelong learner, I was like, I know there got to be some trainings out here. So that was when I like started, I like drove to Asheville, North Carolina and did my first training at Asheville Yoga Center. And I've done, several more since that time. But that is really how I got started teaching. And then after having a physical studio space for a little while in Atlanta years later, and that, I closed those doors, I was left with like, okay, what's next? What do I actually want to do? And what grows organically for me? What am I passionate about? And the thing that just always came up for me was prenatal yoga. But it seemed like, but nobody is just teaching prenatal yoga. Like, can that be successful? So,
So let me ask you this, like, why prenatal yoga? Like, what was it? Like, we all have these things that we do. Well, many of us, not all of us. Many of us have an experience that we can tap back into that really crystallizes the work that we're doing. For
mhm,
me, I've always talked about the Living Foods Institute, and I was just like, oh, I want to do this. This is this teaching of how to do well-being, life, eating, all of it connecting. I was
mhm,
like, yes.
mhm.
What is it about prenatal yoga for you that like what elements of it did you really want to share, and that you felt crystallized it for you to want to give
Mhm.
that back to women?
Yeah. I think the nature of a woman is to nurture and to take care of other people, for most of us, I won't, not everybody, but I think, and so we're constantly giving and putting out. And what I loved, what prenatal yoga did for me, and what I like to do for others is to pour back into them and nurture them and help them connect to the deepest parts of themselves that we often neglect, I think, as women and mothers and partners and business owners. We just don't really take care of ourselves. And I think, particularly during pregnancy, there is a heightened state of intuition and knowing. And you can miss it if you're not plugged in, right? You can, but really, pregnancy will sit you down and you can either go willingly or, you can go kicking and screaming. And so I really wanted to create a soft landing space for women to lean into that because society really is not supportive of that. We are asked to be strong, right? And there's very little opportunity a lot of times for the softness and nurturing and feminine aspects of who we are that is naturally who we are. We're being asked to assume both those roles when really, what we're here to do is really to just lean into that like divine feminine nurturing energy because our other halves can't do that. Like they can't do it in the way that we can do it. And
Right.
so yeah, just a place to really come home to the self and prioritize what it is that is important to you. And then in doing so, then you can mother, right? Then you can give from a place where, one of my teachers says you want to be able to, well, she shared the quote that you want to be able to give from the overflow of your well and not from its depth, which is
Yes.
a Sufi proverb. And I just think that's so profound. Like, what if we filled up first, like
Yeah.
took care of ourselves all the way first, and
Hydrated fully.
right. And then, you know, got ourselves all the way together and then started
Right.
operating that space because we have this overflow. We will be working from an abundant place and then we could just, little for you, and but us first. And so I think that is really what I'm most passionate about is just pouring into people during that time in that way.
Well, I'll say, that's when I fell in love with you. Just like you said, prenatal yoga classes are absolutely special. There's all this anxiousness about, what's happening, what the outcome's gonna be. Even if the mom is not a new mom, you just never know what that particular season will bring. And so I just, they talk about bedside manner,
Mhm.
hospital, your bedside manner in the classroom. or mat size manner. Maybe I'll just change it up. We'll change it to mat size manner in the
Mhm.
classroom is just impeccable and uh just it just holds a special place in my heart, you know. Which leads me now to the work that you are doing now, in addition to that, which is like doula work, right? So it's like all of these natural evolutions for you. You started doing yoga to support you and your stress levels. We moved into prenatal to support women as they, get ready for birth.
Yeah.
And now you are in the room when they're birthing.
Yes, I know. So funny because I never thought I would be a doula.
Really? Like, where did that come from, Vanya?
Okay, so let me tell you, it's very brief though. I when I was teaching prenatal yoga, I had doula friends, and I would gladly just refer my students to all of my, doula friends. But I mentioned that I love to learn, and I'm always taking classes and courses. And there was this woman who I just heard so much about, and I really liked her approach to birth work in general. And even though I had had two children, I was like, I would love to learn more about how to I would like to study about how to really help women prepare well in preparation for birth.
Okay.
Like I do the yoga aspects, but I kind of wanted more of the medical, like physiological aspects of it. And so I did my doula training with the matrona,
I've heard of
yeah, with Wapio Bartlett, and she was holding a training in Atlanta, and a couple folks had recommended that I take the training, and I was like, I'm in. And so I really just wanted the information because I thought, okay, I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to have all these great insight in how to improve my prenatal yoga class. And so yeah, and it was, I did my training, completed it, and the day I completed my training, I posted it on Facebook. I was like, just whatever, you know how we do, post about these different things that we do. And so a friend DM'd me and she was like, I want you to be my doula. And I was like, now,
it.
you do know I haven't done this, right? I was like, I'm not even sure I'm really trying to do this, right? And she was like, yeah, I don't care. I want you to be. I was like, okay. And, the rest is kind of history. That year, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do a birth every other month. And then that materialized. And then the next year, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do one birth a month. And then went through that whole year. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm a doula now. So, yeah, because and the reason why, not that I wasn't interested in the work, but I wasn't sure that I had the capacity for
Yeah.
the schedule. You are on call as a doula. So night and day, anybody can call you at any time for a birth.
Yep.
And I always say, I mentioned that like I have a 9 o'clock bedtime. So I
Right.
always say I have a very
Right.
intimate relationship with sleep. I don't like to be tired. I don't like to be, that is a horrible feeling for me. So I like my rest. I like my naps, all of those things. I'm not typically sleep deprived. So I could not wrap my brain around how this might work and how it might work with two school age children. But women have done it. Women do it, and so do I now, and I love it.
So I'm curious, have you had one of these births? I'm sure now you've done a lot of deliveries or helped with deliveries, where it's like in the middle of the night, past your bedtime.
Oh yeah, all the time. What's interesting, and now actually I welcome that.
Mm,
Why? Because what I learned is when I'm supporting somebody who's birthing, I, in a lot of ways, am birthing again too. And
mm,
so there is a nesting that ensues. And I think a lot of doulas can
yeah,
attest to this.
yeah,
When I'm preparing my home to leave for a birth, because it is a journey. Women go away ideally if they're minimal to no interventions, they go away. They move through various stages of consciousness while birthing. And birth in and of itself is an altered state of consciousness. When you move from the conscious realm to the unconscious realm, literally, subconscious and unconscious realm. And birth, but there's this nesting and preparation that, a mother goes through in preparation for her child. And I have recognized that I go through that too. I got to make sure, like, lunches are packed for the next day and uniforms are laid out and the house is tidy. And so when I go away at night to support women, I need to know that everything is in order, because then that allows me to be fully present for my clients and
Yeah.
the families that I'm supporting. So I actually prefer it because then they are asleep and not in need of mommy.
Right, right.
And, and ideally, we can have that baby overnight and then I can be back. Maybe if dad takes them to school in the mornings, I can pick up, after school. So, and it always works out so beautifully. I mean, the universe has just provided and continues to, with regard to birth and allowing me to do this work and have it be sustainable, like for my personal life. So,
I
and
love
just, a little tidbit I've learned recently that the hormones in labor actually peak between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So that is why a lot of births kick off at night because that
Really?
hormonal cocktail is really brewing. There's the presence of melatonin, which, is not as present during the day, but it's really present at night. And that works synergistically with oxytocin, which is responsible for labor progress to help boost it. So there's just all these little things, right? That, but yeah, it has worked in my favor. Yeah.
So, Kwaku was born 2:37 a.m.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Thick of it, girl. You were in the thick of it.
And now
I
you
was.
remember I was in the thick of that thing, girl. I was Fridays. Woo!
Yeah.
Fridays. That boy. Mm.
Yeah.
We
God.
did it. We did
Yeah.
it.
Yes, you
Wow.
did.
I'm so proud of you. Like just, it's so interesting. It's like I just always tell people, just be open. Like, cause you
Yeah.
never know where the road is gonna lead you. Like, like doula work. Like you weren't the
Yeah.
psychology pre-med major. Well, look, it's kind of connected, right?
No, I think
Right?
it is. There's definitely a through line with everything that I've done. And for a while, it kind of just felt like I was just all over the place. And now I really believe that everything is working together. Um,
Mhm.
and, the thing that I would love to say is I feel like I've always been driven by a really deep, um, just my intuition, my
Mhm.
gut. I can't do a lot of things that don't really truly resonate with me. And that has been my guide, and that voice has gotten louder, and my listening has gotten better over the years. And so even now, when I'm, feel like I'm at a fork in the road in my business and I'm weighing various opportunities or just, what will be the next step or evolution in my business, I have to get quiet a lot of times and just listen, because a lot of times we know, but it's like we just been maybe, going this one direction for so long, kind of beating our heads up against this one wall that's not moving, that it's like, oh wait, that's not working and that's okay. And now I get to pivot.
Yeah,
Mm.
I love that. So I think about as you shared all the things that you do, Pamela Slim. Do you know who
Mhm.
that is? You know
I don't
Pamela
think
Slim?
so. No.
She's a coach,
Okay. Mm.
and she wrote a book called Body of Work,
Mm.
right? Body of Work,
I think I've
and
heard of this book though. Yes.
yeah, and the subtitle of the book is, let's see, Body of Work. It's kind of like pulling together all of the things that really leads to your story,
Mm.
And so
Okay.
a lot of times people think that they're like it's disjointed. It's finding the
Yeah.
threads that ties your story together.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's called Body of Work. And so she helps you to create a framework for your body of work because they might seem like you did marketing,
Yeah.
you did yoga, you do doula work. but there's this thread that really, as you said, connects everything. And a lot of times people don't know what those threads are.
Yeah.
So it's just beautiful to see all of it come together for all of us, specifically.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's not linear by any means. And, that is how we start out, though. Like, with school and then college and then maybe graduate school. And then, we're kind of trained to enter the workforce and do corporate. So it is for sure, like for real, been a journey to this point. And, almost 10 years in, I'm just learning to relax into it. And I'm actually really grateful for it. It's meant a lot of sacrifice and, at times, but I think the quality of life and the things that I value, I've been able to prioritize. And so all the other pieces will kind of, you know, and are falling into place.
So my last big question for you is like, what do you think is one of the biggest things that you feel you've been working on your healing journey?
Hmm. Ooh, that's really good. Okay. On my healing journey, I think it's been, I don't want to sound cliche, but learning to be accepting of what is. Um, and why I say that is, from a personal standpoint, in terms of my, relationship specifically, um, and just, the many evolutions as that has, and, mothering my children, like they're their own person. And, I always say I'm just here to be a good steward of their souls. And then down to business and business relationships and growing a business. And, I've really struggled for many years with this idea of having to have my passion, which is my business, make money for me. That can be really tough sometimes, and people can kind of fall out of love with business. I fell out of love with yoga for a little while because I was grinding so hard. And so I think just learning to truly be accepting of like where you are in your process and not be so attached to the outcome, but be more committed to the journey and the integrity and the work that's happening along the way has been deeply healing for me, especially as somebody who could have been like a straight up type A perfectionist type personality, like I had to really kind of put some of that down when I became an entrepreneur. So, and it goes back to being yoga. I mean, being accepting of what is a yoga principle, as well as like just being fully present, right? Not wishing things away, not
Yeah,
dwelling in the past, and not, you know, projecting too far into the future, but just really leaning into the present moment. So that's it. I mean, that's how I do. That's how I am. I always tell folks I'm doing the best I can. Like in this moment, I'm doing the best I can. Whether or not, and that's gonna look different from day
yes.
to day and week to week and month to month.
Yep.
Wonderful if it looks great to you, and sometimes it won't look so great. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you feel like going back to that earlier, Vanya, with yoga and the stress and the tension headaches, was it the type A personality trying to have everything right and perfect and
Yeah, just obsessing about things that hadn't yet happened. Like, yeah, just worry. That's
Mhm.
it. And so, if you're worried, either living in the past or you're thinking about what's to come. And I had to shut that down. And the only way I could interrupt that was to just learn how to get really still and really present.
Mhm. So I know you have a birthday coming up soon,
I do, yes.
and you like to do these grand detoxes
I do. Yes, I do.
annually. Tell folks about that because I think that
Um,
y'all, I was trying to take her out somewhere. I was like, let's go out. And she's like, no, ma'am. I'm getting ready for my detox. You trying to interrupt my thing, my healing journey.
yes, yes.
So
So,
yeah, tell them why you do that. Like what does that offer you?
yeah, oh my goodness. It was okay. I know I talk about all these awakenings, but no, honestly, I did a 40-day supervised juice fast. Um, I think it was 2012 under the care of Dr. Nana Kweku Opare and his wife Ama Opare, who have since moved to Tanzania. And is a dear friend of both of ours. I will forever credit them with, the information that I received that I have used since that time. But yeah, I mean, I did a 40-day juice fast and y'all, like I can't really put into words what happens when you remove um food, right? From your but it has to be done in a way where you still feel nourished. And
Right,
so that's why for me juice cleanses work because I'm still getting nourishment, but my digestive system isn't having to work to break food down in order to receive it. And so what that does is it frees you up energetically to really tap into your, spirituality, whatever that means for you. And I experience a peace and quiet, just peace of mind like no other when
mm,
I sustain. It just literally puts me um, in line with direct line. It feels like direct communication with source and with spirit. It was God, whatever you know that entity to be by. And so, and for me, like it's my personal new year. Like I see it as my personal new year. Rarely am I ready in January to like make any sort of grandiose changes. But by June 1st, which is my birthday, I'm really like excited about it. And my head is in the game. And so it's the way that I like to welcome another year of life and it helps me reset physically too.
yeah,
So
I
yeah.
love that. Oh, that's so beautiful. All right, so I think we'll just wrap it up. I mean, I could talk to you forever.
I
Uh,
know.
so just tell folks what's coming up for you. What should they, what's coming up? What should they know about? How can they have
Yeah,
the hope find ya?
I know. So, well, actually, I'm really excited about this project that I am collaborating on with the Dharma Project, where we are going to be bringing prenatal yoga to women who are incarcerated. And so,
Ooh.
yeah.
You
So,
ain't tell me about that.
oh, I did. I thought I
Oh,
did.
that's dope.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Really, really excited about it. And so, this Mother's Day, actually, the Saturday before Mother's Day, May 11th from 2 to 4 p.m., I'm offering my annual experience called Mother's Day Magic. But the proceeds, portion of those proceeds, the majority of those proceeds are going to go to benefit our the launch of this prenatal yoga in prison program. So that is super exciting for
I got
me.
chills all over my body. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I really, we have limited number of spots for that, but I would really love to like fill that up and blow that out and then just have people donate to that cause because obviously that is something that is near and dear to me and so needed, right?
Mm.
And who are incarcerated. So
Yeah.
one big thing, the other big thing that I would love to mention is my prenatal yoga teacher training that'll be happening in October. And that training is open to both birth professionals and yoga instructors and anybody wanting to support, pregnant people holistically with yoga in preparation for birth. So those are like my two major projects right now.
Tell them how they can connect with you, B. Come on now.
Yay. So, website is absolutely probably the best way, mycherishedlife.com, mycherishedlife.com. And then I am Cherished Life Wellness on Instagram, and I think Cherished Life on Facebook. So yeah, you can find me any of those places.
Wonderful. And y'all put it in the show notes. You guys know you can connect with Chef B. That's Chef B. Be empowered, energized, and engaged. On our site, if you're interested in plant-based meal prep for your busy work week, you're a professional entrepreneur, and you're just looking for clean meals, we offer that. And then we're starting cooking classes. So I've been really excited about that piece. It's called Meal Prep Sundays. And so we're giving people an opportunity to come here to the Wellness Center and prep meals for the week. And we'll be doing those classes a couple times a month, live and direct, so that folks can get what they need for their work week and not feel frazzled.
Yeah.
Some other good stuff is coming down the pipeline. Palette reset, of course, if you're looking to do a
Mhm.
reboot like my friend Vanya. You don't want to wait till the new year. Maybe a birthday's coming up or a special occasion, and you just need to get that little We have that as well. So yes, you know how to find Vanya, you know how to find me. Thank you so much, B, for blessing us with your presence.
Oh, thank you. This was beautiful. I so enjoyed this.
Yes, awesome. All right, y'all. So that is it for today. And yeah, check us out on another episode of Healing Me First podcast. Take care.